Thank you so much. Let's go back to a point that Gabriel Sterling mentioned, providing some details on two separate investigations into election management in Fulton County. One is about how the county handled a situation there when a pipe burst, remember, at that State Farm Arena in a room near where the ballots were being counted. It slowed down the count there by about 2 hours. The state is also looking into a concern about poll monitoring. The state has pulled video, it says, from State Farm Arena to see if votes were scanned during about an hour-long, maybe hour-and-a-half-long period where monitors were not present. Time is running out for counties to complete the retally and get those results back to the Secretary of State's office. There is a deadline they are working on. While counties like Fulton and DeKalb have now finished, others are racing to beat Wednesday's midnight deadline. Joe Ripley is live at Gwinnett County election headquarters. And Joe, the work there continues to go on. Do you feel like, from what you're hearing on the ground, they're going to meet the deadline there?
Yeah, the word that Gwinnett County officials used to describe it was confident. They are confident that they will finish their work in time for that 11:59 p.m. deadline on Wednesday. You step out of the way so you guys can see the work going on into day 5 here in Gwinnett County at the elections office that these folks are doing. We've seen less and less counting, more and more entering of that data into the Secretary of State's site and system. Counties now have about 36 hours to meet that deadline. Election workers here still have to finish counting a few paper ballots today, we are told. The workers have focused more on data entry, where the sorted and retallied results are then put into the Secretary of State's system. That process is going to continue today, but it will happen as votes are counted. So even if the count and data entry labor into tomorrow, officials say they are sure they'll meet the deadline before midnight Wednesday.
I trust the system, the voting processes and practices, the individuals who work in elections. We want to do it right, and we want to do it effectively.
A similar issue in Cobb, where most of the counting there is done as well. They are focused on that data entry process as well. In Cobb County, a team of voter review panels are meeting to go over about 5,000 of the provisional ballots and some duplicate ballots. They're still working on that in Cobb and Gwinnett County.
Joe, I just see everyone there working behind you. We just want to take a moment to thank all the election workers who have had a very long and stressful number of weeks.